Good morning and welcome back. We are now on day 87 of our 365 days of Bible studies, and we are continuing with the ancient sagas of Israel. At the moment, we are going through that period when Canaan is being invaded and settled by the children of Israel, and we've come to the story of Samuel, and we'll see what happens when he awakens Eli in the night. 1 Samuel chapter 3 verses 1 to 10. In those days, when the boy Samuel was serving Yahweh, directed by Eli, messages from Yahweh were infrequent, and visions from him pretty rare. Eli was now almost completely blind. One night, Eli was asleep in his own room, whilst Samuel was sleeping in the holy place by the Ark of the Covenant. It was well before dawn, and the sanctuary lamp was still alight, when Yahweh called Samuel by name. "Yes, sir," he answered, and ran to Eli's room. "Here I am, you called me." But Eli answered, "No, I didn't call you. Go back to bed," which he did. Yahweh called Samuel again. He didn't know it was Yahweh, since Yahweh had never spoken to him before. So he got up again and went back to Eli and said, "I'm here, you called me." So Eli answered, "Son, I didn't call you. Go back to bed." Yahweh called Samuel a third time. He got up and went to Eli and said, "Here I am. You called me." And this time Eli realized that it was Yahweh calling the boy. "Go back to bed," he said. "And if he speaks to you again, say, 'Yahweh, I am your servant. Speak to me.'" So Samuel went back to bed, and Yahweh came and stood by him. This time, when he said, "Samuel, Samuel," Samuel answered, "I am your servant, and I'm listening." In the first two chapters of the first book of Samuel, you can read about holy Eli's disreputable family, and how the boy Samuel came to live with Eli in the house of the Lord, which was, of course, still a tent at this stage, though probably by now not the lightweight structure of the nomadic shrine, but a construction with separate rooms and accommodation for the priests. Eli's sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were unruly teenagers, disrespectful towards God and parents and other people. And God was looking for a replacement for this dysfunctional family. To his credit, though, Eli finally got the idea that God was trying to communicate with young Samuel. Still quite primitive in its ideas about God, and therefore placing its origin early in the tradition, this story has Yahweh coming in human form and standing by Samuel's bed. This is like the idea that God would walk in the Garden of Eden in the cool of the evening, which we saw back on day 8, or we saw him carefully closing the door on Noah's Ark on day 10. Or you might remember him sitting and taking refreshment at a camping table with Abraham on day 57. You might well ask whether this was just an appearance or something intrinsic in God's nature that came truer later when Jesus was born. Once God had got young Samuel's attention and revealed to him his intention of removing the leadership of Israel from Eli and his dreadful sons forever, and when Eli asked him in the morning what Yahweh had said, Samuel bravely told him all of it. And Eli accepted God's judgment. "He is Yahweh," Eli said, and he'll do what seems best to him. When Eli died, on the one hand, the skirmishing between the Philistines and the Israelites continued, while on the other, Israelites in some numbers were still attracted to the worship of the Philistine nature and fertility gods. For a while, the Philistines even held the Ark of the Covenant hostage, but it appears it brought them different kinds of ill fortune, and they returned it. You can read all about this in the first book of Samuel, chapters 5 and 6. But then Samuel grew up to be a strong, prophetic and charismatic leader, administering justice and encouraging faithfulness to God. His strong leadership held the Philistines at bay for years on end. But times were beginning to change. And in the next fortnight or so, we shall read about the transition between charismatic leadership and what was then regarded as a more stable and modern form of government, the monarchy. God remains sovereign, however, and the editors of these increasingly more official histories make judgments on each reign and how successful each king had been in doing God's will. Tomorrow we turn to those later and more official sagas concerning the monarchy, which begin with the United Kingdom of Israel and Judah, ruled first by Saul, whose reign was not a success, and then David, and then Solomon, a golden age. So I'll see you as we continue tomorrow.